Happy Friday, everyone. Lucky Lefty Podcast. I am your boy, Shaun Davis, SE2 Mics. We are brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. And if you drink, by all means, make sure that you do so responsibly. Left will be along shortly. Had an early appointment fighting that LA traffic. Apple Podcasts and Spotify, right? YouTube channel, Lucky Lefty Podcast. The thumbs up, smash it for us. Leave your comments. We respond to all. Don't forget, exclusively starting in the fall, CFB Nation is where you'll find the audio edible daily of the Lucky Lefty Podcast. That's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave 5 stars. Leave your comments. We greatly appreciate it. Home of the Misguided Passion. We spin it different. So look, it's for the Culture Friday. It's for the Culture Friday. So we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about Notre Dame and where they stand. Where does Notre Dame stand? Relevance on the field, off the field. Are they tier 2? Are they number 1 from a business standpoint? TV ratings. Where does Notre Dame stand? And although Notre Dame is in a pretty good spot, I would say, in most areas that you can discuss concerning the brand, on the field, off the field, swag, financials, would you trade it all for one championship? Would you trade the Notre Dame brand and what it is for one national championship? I just want to gauge how bad as a fan base do we really want this next championship? That's the LL question of the day. How badly do you want a championship? Would you trade who Notre Dame is as a brand? That is spicy, Jason. That's why we talked about it last night. And I said, Left, I think I'm going to throw this at the fan base. Because there's so much I have as a fan that I can kind of raid the rest of the fan bases across college football when they try to come at me about Notre Dame. It's like I shake up my canister and I spray the financials. I shake up my canister and I spray all the national titles and the relevancy and always being at the table and TV ratings and what we're about to get independently with a TV contract. And I just have so much to spray at the haters, right? As most of us do. But would I give all of that up just to be able to win one more national championship? It's been 35 years. It's been 35 years. And maybe this is the kicker. Maybe when Malik earlier this week says Notre Dame has chosen to stay as a tier 2 college football program, and they've chosen not to win a national championship. Maybe somewhere in their hearts and minds, the powers that be feel like that they would be selling out all of that other stuff that makes up Notre Dame to win in today's rat race in college football. Maybe that's their way of thinking, right? So I had to ask myself, like, would I be willing to give up everything Notre Dame is for that national championship? Now, I grew up when Lou Holtz was running the team. You know what I'm saying? So I have that national championship under my belt. I'm good, left. I'm
That's
good,
right.
left. I'm
That's
good.
right.
See, I have empathy for the younger Notre Dame fans, right? That didn't get to experience the Rocket, that didn't get it to experience Jerome Bettis and the greats of the Lou Holtz era, the national championship and the battles with Miami, smacking Florida State around. Like I experienced all of that, left.
Mm. Smacking Florida State around sounds good too.
Oh man, I experienced it all, left. It was a great feeling, great time.
We
So the
almost beat them though. We almost beat them when they were ranked and coming off their national championship.
we should have beat them. What are you talking about? They cheated, dude. That's a touchdown to Corey. Yeah, that's a touchdown. And that
Hell,
was,
hell of
hey,
a play on the fourth down before that though.
Ev outplayed Jameis Winston that night. I'll stand on that. Ev outplayed Jameis Winston on the night. You know who else balled that night?
I
Big
think
Joe.
Ev had a really good end of game where he gave us a chance to win at the end, 100%. I think Jameis, it's hard to say he played better than Jameis during that period of time, only because that man Jameis was something serious that those years.
He was.
He's
He
like the
was.
rabbit, he's like the rabbit in the horse race. It's like you don't really beat the rabbit, but the rabbit's gonna have his pace, you know what I mean? And I think Ev gave us the chance, man. And I think we were shocking a lot of people at that time because they didn't think it would come down to that. Or when the game was looking like it was over. Because we had got that
Yeah.
sack, got the penalty. Everybody's, oh, it's sealed up.
Yeah.
And we converted and then went all the way down and had the 2 point. It's just a lot going on. I would have called a better play personally.
There it is. There because you had already run the play early in the game.
Yeah, I get all that, but in situations in clutch moments, you got to pull out a play that was in the stash. You've been working on. You ain't put it on film yet. We already ran it in the game, so naturally, you got a hint of what's coming. I would have pulled out that good old faithful play. I got a good old faithful play that's undefeated, and it comes to the red zone on the 5 going in.
You mean
Shout out to my dog Jared Goff. I got it from him actually.
you mean quarterback power
Oh no,
against Clemson in the rain?
oh, no.
That's not it.
Definitely would have called something different in that one. I mean, first of all, it's 2 yards. Why are we running side to side? Crazy call. Crazy call. Game on the line. You running side to side
Mm-hmm.
on the 2 yard line. When you got who at that time? We had Ronnie, Q. We had some guys. You going side to side? No.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have made that call. Then you got CJ. I mean, even with Deshaun, I'm not going side to side with Deshaun.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'5".
Yeah.
You got that man falling sideways on the 2. Definitely would have had a different call.
But let me tell you the LL question of the day. We talked about it. We talked about and asked the question, where does Notre Dame stand? Right? Where do they stand as far as relevance? Where do they stand as far as branding? Where do they stand on the field? Where do they stand off the field? TV ratings. Where do they stand financially? And in most areas, I think we would say Notre Dame is at or near the top in most of those areas. And with all of that being said, would you let go of that as a Notre Dame fan just to win another championship?
No.
Like if somebody put that before you, you could be Notre Dame for the rest of eternity, right? Man, endowment, ratings, always a seat at the table, loved or hated, biggest brand in college football. You can be that, but in order to win a national championship, you have to let all of that go.
See, this is my comparison. I made it today on Twitter. It's the same as, would you rather have an Odell type of career or would you have a Keenan Allen type of career?
Mm.
Keenan Allen is very consistent. He's definitely a Hall of Famer. Definitely a Chargers Ring of Honor. Definitely made one of the most top receiver money playing for the same team, going on 10 plus years, bunch of yards, bunch of accolades, no Super Bowl, but he had everything else. And then you got Odell, injury prone, inconsistent, famous. You would think he's as famous as he is great. Got a Super Bowl, but hurt, not as great numbers wise on the field. But would you give it all up, Keenan Allen, for a Super Bowl? I like Keenan Allen's career just because of the longevity.
So basically, you're saying, see, this is tough because as an athlete, you don't start off in the backyard counting down 3, 2, 1 to become a Hall of Famer. You count down saying 3, 2, 1 to win the championship, whether it's catching the touchdown or hitting the shot as time goes on. That is the essence of the love for sports for most of us, right?
But that's where the
championship
love comes from, though, is the consistency over a long period of time.
Okay.
Big moments. That's what we value. That's why we have the biggest retention of fans, because we're consistent. Even in the last 10 years, I feel like we've solidified a fan base to where win or lose, we're going to be there, because the ultimate goal of a championship, even though it hasn't been achieved, it feels like it's on edge every year. It keeps bringing people back. Whereas in Odell's career, it's like you're a big fan. There's years where you like, man, it's the worst dude in the league. It's a few years where he's the best. A few years you don't hear from him because he hurt. Then he pop out with a Super Bowl. And now you're like, oh, man, this is my favorite player. He got a Super Bowl, but you're looking at the in-between. You got fans that are hit or miss, fair weather fans. I think Notre Dame has the consistent fan base that's like, man, we're like the Denver Nuggets. We're like, we do everything right. We got one of the best teams around. All we need for teams to take us serious is a championship. You
think they do everything? They can't defend.
Who can't defend?
Jamal Murray's a horrible defender.
You see how they was defending KD and Booker?
Dude, you want to take one game? KD and Booker blazed their defense an entire series. What are we talking about?
An entire series?
Devin Booker embarrassed their defense an entire series.
They only won one game.
They won 2 games. What are you talking about?
Oh, well, it didn't feel like 2 games, but it wasn't like it was a close series.
Devin Booker had like the most points in like the first 3 games of a series historically.
And they didn't win the series.
That's
point. One player, though.
They don't defend. You just said they do everything well.
They do everything well. You don't think they play defense well? I'm not saying they're the best defensive team.
Jokic is a pick and roll liability. What are you talking about?
That's what we're talking about. One player. I'm talking about team defense. Now, if you put that in the perspective of the last teams that are left, Denver is one, if not the second best defensive team, next to the Lakers.
Out of the teams that are left?
Yeah.
You taking the Eastern Conference too?
The Sixers can't play no defense. Let's be honest.
What?
The Sixers can't play defense.
Boston
proved that they're inconsistent on defense. Right.
Stop. Denver has no rim protection. And they just have a very efficient offense, bro. They do just enough. That's all they do. They do just enough defensively. Well, go ahead.
Who in the East do you think has a better defense? Because the Sixers don't.
The Sixers and Boston have a better defense all year than Denver. What are you talking about?
We're not talking about all year. We're talking about in the playoffs right now.
They are who they are. What are you talking about? If I needed a stop, I would trust Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the wings before I
Would you
trust
really?
Mike, Michael Porter Jr. as a defender? Are you kidding me? Marcus Smart or
Call
Jamal
Michael,
Murray?
you call
Marcus Smart or Jamal Murray to get you a stop?
who I want in the game or who I want for one stop.
One stop.
Specific. Well, Marcus
Jamal
Smart.
Murray. Jamal Murray is
Marcus Smart,
horrible.
easily Marcus Smart. But Marcus Smart is defensive player of the year. What is that?
And so back, you think I don't look? I think your analogy, you need to find somebody better than the Denver Nuggets to compare to Notre Dame. But go right ahead.
I think for Notre Dame to be back on top for how we feel about them as a fan base, like the country would feel about them, like we feel about them, I think it comes down to winning the championship. I think it puts us in that, crosses us over into that championship tier of teams, because no matter what, even if we beat the snot out of Clemson last year, they're still considered a championship tier team and a playoff team every year because of the recent history. They've won a couple. They're in the running. Some say that was considered a down year for Clemson last year. But whenever they get their quarterback situation right, I think with Dabo being in there, they're going to be all right.
I mean, the quarterback situation is pretty much.
I mean, well, yeah, they have their quarterback, but when they get that generational play at that position again, they'll be all right.
I can agree with that. But, that is where we sit. I think what you said earlier this week rings true. It was shocking for me to hear, but it rings true. There is a conscious decision being made to not go after a national championship in the current landscape of college football. And I said to myself, what are the reasons why the powers that be would make the decision to not aggressively go after a national championship? And I said to myself, they must believe that in order to win aggressively, they would have to give up everything else that they have in the hand already when it comes to the relevance, the branding. They feel like they would have to give that up or sacrifice it in some way, form, or fashion.
Right.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm just saying they must feel that way. And therefore, that's when we come around to the stewardship part of how things have played out for Notre Dame. Now, I think Marcus Freeman readily recognizes what needs to be done on the field. Need a quarterback. Need some big hogs up front to dominate the defensive front. He recognizes that. He's doing his best along with the staff to go and solve those issues on the recruiting trail.
That's right. He's definitely solved the major issues coming in early and getting on that. And we saw the results of that and being the top 5 recruiting class to the point where I believe there was some collusion involved with some of these sites where they saw Notre Dame potentially being a top 3 class and started dropping guys' rankings. And I think, it even goes into how the college football landscapes views Notre Dame now in recruiting, to where they're teaming up like the Avengers against Notre Dame in recruiting kids, where we wasn't in the conversation before, the little conversation we became to come into. You got these teams that are like, whoa, what are y'all doing? But in the media they play us like, we're not doing nothing special over here. But these teams know. You got a team that just won a championship calling our ops and saying, hey, let's go together and stop this kid from thinking Notre Dame, in their backyard. So it shows that Marcus Freeman is doing the right thing because of the response from other people, not so much of what he's doing, but the response he's getting from other colleges that in other years would destroy us in recruiting. Now we got their attention and we just minding our business. So it shows that something's going right. And if we continue this and then add some winning to it with a quarterback, I really think we got us something that's going to last a while.
So let's dig in where we stand on the field. We've kind of discussed this, but another report came out, another list. This is the time for lists, right? The little bridge in between April and spring visits and the official visits in June. The month of May, coaches are out on the road, and here we come with the list post-spring. I believe the linebacker core for Notre Dame was ranked 10th in the nation, according to On3. Defensive backfield was ranked 6th. But more importantly, Sam Hartman was ranked as the 7th best quarterback returning in college football.
It's going to give you a chance.
Now, you know.
That around a good team, it bumps him up like 3 or 4 spots. Now you're talking about a potentially top 5 quarterback in college football. Now that puts us in the conversation of competing against the Caleb Williams and USC, because that is supposed to, quote unquote, be the great equalizer. If we got a top 5 quarterback, you got a top 5 quarterback, we can cancel that out. You know, just like Jamal Murray and Jokic, their points, with KD and Devin Booker, their points, they cancel each other out. So who's going to be that backing piece to get them over the hump? And I think for us, now that we got Sam as a top 5, we're good at any game. You add that with a top 5 O-line, add that with a top 5 quarterback.
Well, you had him at 5. I had him at 6. You know, the list had him at 7.
I think he's at 7 individually, but he's top 5 when you buffer him with some talent. You just raise some points. I think we'll make him look better, but he's a good player as a standalone. So,
yeah.
Whereas Jack Cohn was like 35th, we bumped him up top 25. So, I do think it'll be cool to see just the development of where this can go. But now that I feel like we have a top 5 quarterback, we can go compete against Ohio State, I feel good. Away or home. We can go to Clemson away or home. We can go to USC away or home. We can even go to Bama. And I know that whatever they got on their side in that quarterback room, we can give the same production. Or at least a chance of the same production.
Yeah.
Last year, you got a top 55,000th quarterback, and you walking into Ohio State, it just doesn't feel like you got a chance as much. You would say a lot of things got to go right. But Ohio State walking into that game, they like, yeah, we may not have everything together right now, but we got a number 2 pick at quarterback and a top 10 pick at receiver. So when in doubt, we got better players in the right spots. Going into the game, I'm like, man, everything got to go right. Tyler got to play great, and we got to call the right plays for him, and he got to stay healthy, and we got to block it right, and we got to take big shots down the field. Ohio State's game plan probably was like, listen, we got CJ, so we're going to do our thing. And if it get tough, he's going to pull us out. That's a comforting thing as an offense coordinator. Probably a comforting thing for Ryan Day, which is why he's probably shitting bricks, knowing that he's got to actually try to put together some coaching stuff. You got to run the ball probably a lot more. Coach Alfred going to be way more of an importance this year. You just can't call basic stuff no more, and he just delivers amazing plays. You got a game plan. So I think they're going to be more inwardly focused. I think how we were the last couple years on just finding what makes us really, really good. And what makes us really, really good, we have it already. We got the QB, we got the run game. Defense is another year of experience, beefed up. Guys are hungry. Coaching staff's intact. We looking to roll over some folks. Ohio State's like, damn, is the defense going to be together?
Uh-huh.
Are they going to play better? Shoot, where's our offensive production going to come from? Because Harrison Jr. can't throw it to himself.
Right.
And hell, if they know he can't throw it to himself, we're going to have to run the ball. We're going to be able to block it. We're losing our first round tackle.
Yo, that's why the fear factor for that Ohio State game, in my opinion, dropped. In my opinion. I feel a lot better about that Ohio State game this year.
Because it's low. Because where are they going to get their production from? He can't throw it to himself. You can only throw so many screens. You can only chuck it down the field so many times. And honestly, I feel pretty good about that matchup. We got Ben Morrison. So at worst, we have Ben Morrison. A lot of teams can't say that.
Well, see, in that type of matchup, if Marvin is
at worst we have, we supposed to say at worst you have Cam, and then at best you have, not at worst saying Cam's the worst, but to say we have a Ben Morrison that we don't have to put Ben Morrison on him all day, and we can just rotate guys on him, we're good.
Yeah.
Not saying that Cam is not good, but I'll start out with him on Cam, tire him out a little bit, and then lock him up with Ben.
Yeah.
What are you going to Carnell Tate? Carnell Tate going to beat us in his first year? I'll take my chances. Not saying that he won't do well, but he ain't going to have no 4 touchdowns or something crazy like that. Because who's throwing in the rock?
Notre Dame just picked up another commit, 3-star. So he's high 3-star, 6'3", 195-pound athlete, Teddy Rizak. Runs a 4.48 40, 35-inch vert. From West Side, 2024, athlete, safety, secondary. He just committed to Notre Dame. It wasn't much. I mean, it was really Notre Dame, Boston College in Nebraska.
Mm.
Let me tell you.
If anything, we're good at turning 3-stars into players down the line, but he's definitely a Ben Menace type of recruit.
Him, Urlacher. Oh, this is cute. This is cute. If Notre Dame does not get a kid like Jalen McClain, we have to start questioning the recruiting of safety. I'm not saying, look, Ben Menace. I like Ben Menace. I like Rizak. We can like whomever. There's a bunch of kids around this country that I like. But there's only a few safeties I love. Now, you can say what you want to say.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, right? It's only a few Caleb Downs every year.
Okay, then you got to go find one then.
If we get us a Caleb Down, look, we can't win them all, and I've accepted that.
We talked about difference makers, right?
I've accepted that some difference makers is just not. It's just not gonna happen,
especially from the state of Georgia. Like we getting Caleb Downs to lead Georgia and say no to Alabama and Georgia. Look, the Rizak pickup is a really good pickup. It's a really good pickup. Are there better safeties out there that Notre Dame still needs to get into this class? Yes. Yes. And I don't even think this kid is going to stay at safety. He's probably going to end up moving a rover. And if that's the case, there's definitely some more kids out there in the 24 class that you can get that have a little more upside. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my opinion.
I think the focus should be, though, too, is coaching. If we have the best coaching,
and we're going to watch film on somebody. I don't know if they're on your schedule this year. We're going to watch film on who I think is the next. Yep. Who I think is a hybrid between Manti and Jalen Smith. He is an absolute. If Notre Dame gets this kid at the linebacker position, it's he. I watch his film and I'm like, yep, he's not quite Jalen, but he's a little bit more athletic and has the same air about him as a Manti. We're gonna watch his film in a few minutes. But go ahead, Left. Just talk about what you're saying.
Um, and in what aspect again? I was
No. You were talking about getting it. You know, you can't always get the
Oh
Caleb
yeah, I'm
Downs.
referring to the fact that if we get really, really, really good coaching, we may not get the day one players out of recruiting
Uh-huh.
where it's like, okay, Caleb Downs is starting. I don't care who we got on the roster first day of
Uh-huh.
camp. But we can raise guys like this. What's his name? Rezak?
Yeah, Rezak.
Rezak. We can, with elite coaching, turn those guys into potential players down the line. I think Clemson started out with doing that.
Well, Clemson has done that, right? Bring cats in as
Started
safety, move them at the rover position, and then gradually move them over to the wheel position where they become stars. Absolutely. We've absolutely
so
seen it work.
So we've seen that development happen, but I think it comes with great coaching when you can't bring a Caleb Downs in a freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the great equalizer of not being able to pick up 5 stars out of high school on a mass level is being a master at the transfer portal. Because at least you're getting ready-made products that have college experience
Mm-hmm.
instead of ready-made products that don't. So I think when you're filling holes, transfers and being a master at that will be way more helpful. Maybe not in the development down the line, but from a we need to beat this team because they got this guy right now,
Mm-hmm.
and he only got a year left, and we don't want to take this loss. Like building a team to beat Caleb Williams for a year because we're going to need a little extra from the transfer portal. I think that's where we have to play. Now the restrictions are still a little tough, but hell, you can't get it right your 5th year in college, and
Boy, you stupid.
you're in trouble. So I think that's an easier fight when getting around
Oh
those
man.
type of rules. Because as a 5th year, I'm sure Sam's probably taking a guitar class, underwater basket weaving, um, you know, some basic classes, football, whatever. So I do think it's important. And if you can't get them early, you can get around it by getting in that transfer portal.
Lucky Lefty podcast. And we talk about where we stand. And I think where we stand and how that starts to change, I think recruiting is the bloodline of how that will begin to reshape itself in the coming years under Marcus Freeman. Now, we know Marcus Freeman and the staff, they have no problem identifying the issue and making way for change. They might go about it very brash in some ways. They might hurt some feelings, but it is what it is. You have to respect the fact that they identify change, right? And one of those kids we'll get to shortly. But remember, smash the like button. Lucky Lefty Podcast. Don't forget CFB Nation, exclusively in the fall for your audio edible each and every day. Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's the Lucky Lefty Podcast. You already know we spin it different. Now we go to watch film for Kingston Villamuasa out of out of Bosco Prep out in California. Left, look, it is Ohio State, USC, Notre Dame. And when you watch this young man left, he is to me Jalen Smith and Manti. Just the presence he has at the middle linebacker position. I love this kid, man. I love this kid.
What school you go to?
It goes to Bosco out there in LA.
What's his name?
It's Kingston Villamuasa, 5-star linebacker. His top 3 schools, he's already announced it would come down to Notre Dame, Ohio State, and USC.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to get out of USC.
St. John Bosco.
Yeah, we play them this year. I think in the scrimmage or something.
Oh, we
just smacked the Trinity League team yesterday, so we not scared of nobody.
So basically, Notre Dame fans, that cat Malik is going to get to see Jason
Nah,
Robinson.
Bosco's actually really, they're unfair. But I'm just saying the teams they play on a league basis, we just whoop one of them. So we with that. I think he definitely moves very Jalen like. He ain't Jalen. This is
No, I said he's just short of Jalen. I said that. I said
he's
he's out. I said
shorter
he's
than short. He might be a little midget to Jalen, but
he's
I do think
disrespectful.
no. But I do think he moves really good, man. I think one thing, he looks very instinctive. He has a nose for the football, and physical, man. I think the linebackers that have no fear can run through gaps and play at full speed like this is definitely a signifier that they'll play fast just like this in college. And I think when you talk about what fits Notre Dame, this is what you're looking like. I think, Menace probably looked a little bit like this coming out of high school before the injuries because he was flying around a little bit like that. But I really like what this kid brings to the table. He plays with great leverage. I mean, he looks like he's crab walking through the whole, highlight tape. You don't really see him standing straight up. He's got a lot of speed and he's aggressive and got bad intentions to the tackle, which is really cool to see, man. I think along with obviously looking like the part, you can see why he's a 5-star linebacker. And he's not afraid to put his nose in there. So for us and how it fits, I think it would upgrade a lot from the sideline to sideline play that we're looking to have with our new and reinvented linebackers that we've recruited with a Drake Bowen and a Jaden Osbury. The way they look, he's going to look just like them coming into school, and I think it'd be a great fit, especially because he looks like he's pretty versatile. He could be something like a box safety in some cases because he looks slim enough like he can get down there and make plays. But the best thing about him is that he's physical to the point of attack, and he's got a nose for a football, and that motor, man, he's got a good motor on him. So it's going to be interesting to see, getting a top linebacker to be considered us in his top 3 shows a lot of testament to where Marcus Freeman impact comes as a position coach. I'm sure he probably shared some linebacker stories and stuff with this kid to where he can be like, oh, I can play for the guy like this. So along with that and having a Buckets Award winner 3 out of the last, 6 or 7 years, I think that bodes well for a kid that in a system like Bosco, Notre Dame makes sense. And so it's crazy how Bosco recruits. So I don't know if they say anything to the kid.
Let me ask you a question because we're going to talk about that in the second half of the show. Great article in The Athletic about how tampering is ripping college football apart. It's a great article. Bruce Feldman did an incredible job with this article, man. The lengths of tampering that's taking place right now in college football, where you have big-time programs, second week. They literally have departments dedicated to watching film and calling players on other teams the second week of the season. It's some great work done by Bruce Feldman. We'll get to it. But Bosco, when you have schools like Bosco, Modern Day, how dangerous is it to recruit kids from there when you feel like they haven't been tested or challenged? It's always been easy. They play with the best players. They play, you know what I'm saying? So when they get to a campus, when they're playing against other great players, I would be interested in seeing what the bust factor is from schools like Bosco, Modern Day, and those big time programs that just seem to get all the top talent.
Well, those situations, a lot of times, the issue becomes they don't pop on the scene because one, when you go to programs like this, you're not getting a bulk share of the reps. Because even if you are a starter,
Mm-hmm.
you're whooping teams by second quarter. You're not playing the whole game.
Yeah.
So you getting less than 50% of the snaps in a game as a starter
Yeah.
because so many guys trying to rotate. So you're working on half reps and you flash, but you gotta have at the end of the day, it's about reps and those reps through experience. So if you going in there and you flash, it just doesn't last long enough. You're just not gonna have enough built up in the tank.
Yeah.
Like a Formula One car. You'll your first couple of days in practice. Oh man, who was that? He's Bosco. Oh man, about that 6-7 practice in camp. Oh, he's just another dude. Because you
Right.
never had to stretch your talent.
Right. Right.
It's been okay, pop for a first quarter, then you good. You just take your pads off. We got 7 other top guys that got to get some film. You good. So when you get in those situations where everybody's kind of solid, you got guys that have played 4 years on a bad team and had to take on double teams their whole careers.
Facts.
You know, they've been the
Facts.
team so they've had to deal with different things where you're just playing football. You take
Yeah.
it on one block, maybe. You got a USC D tackle in front of you, taking up double teams. You just running gaps. So your shed blocking isn't great because you didn't have to do it too much. You didn't have to work through a triple team or a double team too much. Then you flying around now. You do that in practice, you get your block knocked off. Now you like, I don't know if I'm gonna be. This ain't high school. I could be running in there all willy nilly
Right.
because I'm getting putting hands on. I'm just not the fact. So it's just a lot that changes for guys that go into systems like this because it can be misleading. But you can't. The beautiful thing about football is you cannot fake the funk.
This is why I love Kingston. I remember the first time I watched this film, I was like,
Wait, you love who?
Kingston, the
Oh yeah,
linebacker we just watched. And I watched him. Great interview, great kid. Ryan Roberts had a great interview with the kid. He's a noted, I hate saying this, but I mean, if you see a kid and you say, "Oh, he looks like a kid that would be walking Notre Dame's campus," and I hate putting people in the box like that, but there's so much
that's what Notre
diversity.
Dame has made it though.
But
It's
I want to say this: I think Notre Dame does itself a disservice because there's so much diversity to that statement. If they will explore it, like saying, like, "Yo, you look like a Notre Dame fit," does not close the window. In my opinion, it opens the window because there are so many diverse people at Notre Dame, so many different diverse people from different areas and walks of life. They kind of pour into the culture that is Notre Dame. And he fits that, in my opinion. He absolutely fits that. And watching this young man and watching this film, I'm like, yo, he runs around like Jalen, but he just has this aura when you hear him talk, like he's a Manti type. Like he's somebody that will hit campus and people will immediately be drawn to and immediately love, and he'll produce from day one. And he's a natural linebacker. Now, this is not somebody which goes back to what we just said, and we're going to show you Teddy Rizak in a second, who just committed to Notre Dame. No problem with Teddy Rizak, who eventually is going to probably end up in a linebacker position, maybe Rover. That's not his natural position.
right.
Or he's not as instinctive. I said from watching spring practice, the most instinctive and natural linebackers were the two freshmen. It was easy to see, left. They played the position like they were born to play linebacker. Kingston is in the same mold. He was born to play linebacker. That's
I
what
would
he
say
does.
he's more of a Jeremiah Owusu
I,
than he
I
is a Jalen.
I didn't say he was a Jalen, man.
No,
Stop taking stuff
I'm
personal.
not saying you said. I'm just saying from a comparison standpoint. I
Okay.
think I think he plays more like a Owusu than he does a Jalen, only because I think he's more impactful on the tackle.
Mm,
Jalen wasn't trying to boom you necessarily because he's like, look, bro, I'm here to let you know I'm better than you, but I'm not trying to kill you. Owusu's gonna go in there and hit you and be there.
facts.
So he's more like Owusu because he's head first. He grabbing something, diving at
Mhm.
something. Jalen's like, I'm faster than you, I'm better than you, so I'm gonna be there and I'm gonna just put you down. You know, he
Right.
just, oh no, come here, I'm gonna put you. You know,
Right.
where you gonna put you?
Right.
This dude is like, I'm hitting you and physically taking you down. So I think from a physicality standpoint and point of attack, he's more like Jeremiah Wusu. But either way, you're talking about Buckets Award winners. You put a kid in a group that I think has a lot of talent at that linebacker position. It's interesting because you put him with the rest of those guys. Is he looking the same? Because Drake Bowen's no slouch. Jalen Sneed's no slouch. Connor Ziegler's no slouch. Nolan Ziegler's no slouch. Jaden Osbury no slouch. So we got all these linebackers right now. You throw him in there, totally different look on what you're bringing to what we've had before. You've had guys before in that middle of the defense that was a little stiff. Couldn't get to the rallying point in open space. Couldn't make the tackle behind the line of scrimmage on blitzes. You watch this kid's film, he's making those tackles. And you throw him in there with some guys that are coming in looking the part too, you see a transition of what the room is going to look like from a Carlos Calabrese
Wow.
to a Jalen Sneed. That's the evolution of the position that we're on the up and up for. We ain't Alabama linebackers yet because, you know, that they got a little bit different down there. But on a talent perspective,
Mm-hmm.
we in the top 5 now for linebacker talent.
And that's why the ranking of top 10, surprising to some, shouldn't be. When you look at the collective, I understand, you talk about Menace and Kaiser and JD Bertrand, and folks feel like we know what we have with those guys, and we're clamoring for the youngsters, Nolan Ziegler, Jalen Sneed, Drake Bowen, Jay Nosberry. It's their time. It is, and it eventually will be their time. But there's going to be a mixture with this linebacking core during this season. And hopefully they can live up to being the 10th best, being ranked as one of the top 10 linebacking cores in the nation. So that's a nice little overview of where Notre Dame stands and how the fans feel about it. Next up left is for the Culture Friday. I have some interesting questions for you. Was Ronnie, played by Jada Pinkett in Menace to Society, was she a bad mother?
She a bad mother in real life.
Was she a bad mother? We'll talk about it. Only right here for the Culture Friday, and we'll dig into tampering in college football and how it impacts Notre Dame. Lucky Lefty podcast. We spin it different. It's for the Culture Friday. A lot has been going on. A lot of buzz around Menace to Society, who's approaching an anniversary from first premiering in theaters. The Hughes brothers are very much connected to the Dear Mama series, highlighting Tupac, which I believe The final 2 episodes are going to be released here. Um, but I think next weekend, because I think a lot of shows took the weekend off because they didn't want to compete with Mother's Day.
Hmm.
Because I know Power pushed their episode to next week. Some of the other shows did as well. I have some interesting questions left. 3 questions about 3 iconic movies. Menace to Society, Ronnie, played by Jada Pinkett Smith. She had a young son. Now, she ended up in a relationship with Kane, who was the protege to the father of a child, Purnell, that was in jail. We saw our little son playing with Kane, hold a gun. We saw her throw multiple parties, wild parties at the crib while her son was there. We saw her and Kane get busy during one of the parties. As much as people want to look at that character and what she tried to do for Kane and getting out of the hood, was Ronnie a bad mother in Menace to Society?
On what standard, I guess? Because if it's about the end of the road, then technically no.
Okay.
Because if we just counting what's the result of all those things and decisions made and how it impacted it, if the result is positive, then I guess it's just a part of why everybody has a different story.
Was Kane wrong for getting with Ronnie, knowing that that was his mentors?
I mean, you know,
This one is tricky, love. I don't.
that proximity thing is crazy. You know, in the world, it's why all the rappers date the same girls, athletes date the same girls. It's just a proximity thing. But Matt, like, no, there's nowhere in the world things like Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher situations happen. There's just no way. Because for them to be who they are and as much value as they have separately, to be mixing situations like that is crazy. Because there's too many in the world to be mixed up with your former teammate. That's about as crazy as how they say those fighter jet pilots, how they swap wives all the time.
Really? I have not dug into this.
Yes, they said it's like, you know how the military always says it's a little grimy, but they said the fighter pilots are the biggest wife swappers with each other.
Word.
Yeah, and it's a psychological reason. It's like because they are always on the cusp of potentially dying, that psychologically they like, I would want somebody else to love my wife if I don't make it back, type thing. So that's why they all trade wives with each other. So if me and you were fighter jets, and I'm subconsciously knowing I can probably die anytime I get in this thing, I'm without really thinking about it like, yeah, you can have my wife for a week or something or whatever, because if I die, I would want my wife to have somebody that loves her as I move on. It's the crazy shit they explain. I don't think it's true necessarily, but it makes sense.
It's quite similar. True story. One of my good friends, and he won't care. One of my good friends is a believer in he's polyamorous.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
He's polyamorous, right? And he and his significant other have made the decision to operate as such. Now here's the kicker. On the weekends, they swap, which means the dude comes to his house and he in turn goes to his girl's house. He talks to the dude that's smashing his girl every day. Like they're cool. And this is where I told him, this is where I draw the line, bro. If that's what you want to do and you want to date other people, fine. I don't need to talk to you. Why do you need to talk to why do you need to talk to me? Why do we need to
Why
be
we gotta
cool?
be friends for real?
Right. Like look, the psyche of all of this stuff is amazing to me. And that, my friend, is something that I never thought I would hear.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Like it's like a common, like it's really a common thing. Like they just don't talk about it because it's one, that's the usual thing, and two, it's like nobody's ever interested in a fighter jet's personal life, but that's how they operate. You know, they probably around each other all the time anyway.
Yeah. Man, that's that's crazy. That's crazy. Last but not least, so you give Ronnie a pass as a parent. You didn't think Kane was bogus.
But in the moment of it all happening, of course you're a bad parent. Of course it's bogus. It's just like, are we judging by the end of the movie or are we judging by the how we're going through it?
Yeah. So, as we close out our conversation about Menace to Society, just some interesting questions. This is the last one. Do you think the movie would have been better if Tupac would have played the role of Stacy?
Uh Maybe. I don't know. I think I think Tupac should have had more movies. I'll tell you that.
Well, you know, the famous story about how he ended up being part of the reason they got the movie greenlit. And then, not Stacy, I'm sorry, Sharif. He was supposed to be the Muslim brother, Sharif.
Oh.
And he wanted to change some things. He didn't want to really play that role. I think he wanted to play the Kane role. He had worked with the Hughes brothers before. They fired him eventually, and you know he came down to the set, beat up one of the brothers while the other brother got away, and eventually went to jail. Was one of the reasons why he ended up in jail.
Mm.
I think Tupac. This is my firm believer. I don't think Tupac belonged in that movie. I think Tyron Turner was the perfect Kane. I
Mm.
think Lorenz Tate was the perfect O Dog.
I'm a big Lorenz Tate fan, man. I think he's a
He's a
I
phenomenal actor, bro.
great actor. Before Power and all that, I just think
Yeah,
Power just sums up all the roles that I felt like he was really good at. Because I think he could really be a governor
yeah,
outside of outside of acting. The way he just looks like it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Him and his brother are real life cops, right, or something like that. Or him and his or the cop that's
No,
Power is his real life brother.
the cop. Yeah, the three
Yeah,
brothers. He has three brothers. They're all three brothers from Chicago, by the way. I would just like to represent that. They're from Chicago, but they all are in the game. And the brother from the officer from Power, who plays his brother in Power, is his real
it's
life
his real
brother.
life brother. Okay, okay.
Yes, yes.
So
So
I think they do a great job, man. Lorenz Tate, good dude.
yeah, he is very underrated, man. He makes me laugh every time he has a conversation with
With
Tariq from
Tariq
Power.
every time, because he's like, "Oh, you got something for me, or am I have to get you right?" Like, wait. He only want to do something if he go. He's like, "Yeah, I help you. But what you got for me, dog? You got some info?"
Oh man, oh man,
And Tariq always got some info for him. He's like, "Hey, I know something about such and such." Slide you this photo, and it's always funny how they frame the camera. When
man,
Tate get the info, he like, I got it.
got
Oh,
it.
my next move.
I don't know. He might have bit off more than he can chew with Monica from Girlfriends.
Man, listen, I think she trying to run him now.
Yeah,
He
she's
like,
definitely
hey,
trying to
man,
run him. She's
he
definitely
like,
trying
look,
to
I'm
run him.
trying to win. You over here telling me not to meet with people? Come on, what is that? What is that?
Yo, that is our For the Culture Friday right here, Lucky Lefty Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. Hit the like button for the Culture Friday, CFB Nation. Bruce Feldman and Max Olson via The Athletic. They combined to write this article entitled Tampering Confidential in College Football is Inevitable and Impossible to Stop. They start off the story talking about this is just a couple of weeks ago in the spring practice. A group of 5 head coach was fighting off multiple covert efforts to swap some of his best players. This coach had buddies on SEC coaching staffs that called him and warned him that they were walking into recruiting departments and noticing his players on highlight videos. Now, Left, do they deserve to be put on the petty train? This is interesting. Let's say,
Who deserves?
let me tell you, your boy, let's say you are the assistant coach at Alabama.
Okay.
Let's say CJ is the head coach at Memphis.
Okay.
You walk into a recruiting meeting and you see a bunch of Memphis players on the table being discussed in the recruiting room. Would you call CJ and say, hey, I'm just giving you a heads up, bro? They coming after X, Y, and Z. Or would you kind of just count it as, yo, this is the nature of the business?
I would want to know because I would want to be like, okay, what's the value you seeing and I'm not? Maybe I need to be playing them more. But if I'm not playing them to begin with, or are we talking about they looking
No,
at?
no, 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 no. They're looking at you're an assistant coach at Alabama. You just finished spring practice. You walk in the recruiting room, and Memphis players are being talked about. And CJ is the head coach of Memphis. Do you warn him that your staff is trying to come after his players? Or do you just not say anything and just say, man?
Are they? See, the thing is, are they starters or are they my depth? Because if they're my depth, I would want to know the names. So I'm like, what are they saying? Maybe I need to be including them more or whatever. Or if they're not the starters and they're the depth, maybe I'm like, good for them. Because at the end of the day, think about Marcus Freeman's situation. It was at one point we was over scholarship. So at some point, I might have to have a tough conversation with one of these kids and be like, look, like he's having tough conversations. Oh, we gonna move this direction. I don't think he'll be a part of it. Just like he said to Drew Pine. So if I'm the Alabama assistant coach and I see Drew Pine on my board for Memphis, and I call over to CJ, be like, look, we looking at your boy Drew Pine on our recruiting table. I'll be like, thank you. Hell, let me tell him.
No, you wouldn't. Come on, bro.
I
Now,
just
you
told
messing
Drew
with,
Pine. I just told Drew Pine that I'm about to move on from him.
but that's now you do. That's not the situation. That's not
Oh,
the
you just saying that's
situation.
what I said. Are we
We're
talking
talking.
about
We're
starters?
talking about yes. You're not going to get the scrubs from a group of 5 teams.
We did. We got Jack Cohn. He was a scrub at Wisconsin. We made him good.
He was
So
a
that's why I
starter.
said, what's the difference? Are we
He was
talking
a
about
starter.
starting 11 or are we talking about depth? Because
Dude,
if I'm talking about depth, then I'm Marcus Freeman. I get a call that, teams got Drew Pine on their board. Good. Okay, let me tell Drew. I just told him we about to get rid of him. I'm not getting rid of him. I told him about to out recruit him.
we'll get to Notre Dame doing a terrible job. with Jack Cone and Kane Mack. Like, if you're gonna go get somebody from Marshall, if you're gonna go to Marshall, all that talent Marshall had when they walked up in here last year, the one you identified on their team was Kane Mack.
Exactly. But if I'm Marshall, I'm like, oh my God, you want Kane? Oh yeah, hell yeah. You just lucky we can't trade. You just lucky we can't trade because I would be like, let me get you want Kane, let me get Tobias, let me get Blake Fisher, let me get some trades going. You
So
know,
basically, you're saying that, dude, they Notre Dame got no pushback from dude. They told Kane, man, here's
yeah,
your letter.
yeah. They say you just want to let him go. Yeah. Oh, it's a steal. You know, take him
Oh
off.
man.
We trying to open our recruitment back up at Marshall. We need a little space freed up. Go ahead, take us to Kane. Money.
So I would venture to say,
Oh, go ahead.
the tampering. And Malik and I usually differ on this stuff because Malik is like all about the wild, wild west of NIL recruiting, open it up, let everybody have the opportunities that they can get.
I don't believe it's tampering because if it is, then we have to talk about coaches that tamper. If
Oh,
I'm at
it's
Cincinnati,
tampering either way. It's
if
tampering either
I'm at
way.
if I'm at Cincinnati and I got Coach Kelly got whispers he about to dip on us before the bowl game, but he coming into the team meeting the next day say, hey guys, I'm here for the long run.
He's lying.
Then I need to be having some calls going out too.
So now you're talking about what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's not answering the question of whether or not it's fair.
It is
You're
fair.
just no, wait,
100.
wait, 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 wait. You're not talking about whether or not it's fair or good for the greater good of the game. You're just talking about if everybody else if he's doing it, then why can't we do it?
I think it's about the evolution of where
That's
the
like
game
me. Let
is.
me look. Let me like I just gave the example of my boy. I'm gonna go tell my wife as soon as the show is done. Hey, my boy believes in polyamory, and it works for him. So guess what? I submit
See,
that
that's different.
it was no, because he's doing it. So I should be able to do it too.
No, it's different because we're talking about a league where it's only so many teams that are in that league. So if there was just a free for all like a club team, then it'd be like, okay, that's an individual case by case basis. But in a league though, where it's only a limited amount of teams, limited amount of players,
Uh-huh.
and the league is having some rules for some and not rules for all. And if it's not a rule against it, then it's not a morally bad or good thing. It's just the way of the game. You know, they say charge it to the game. You got to charge that kind of stuff to the game. Remember when we was talking about our good old friend at Pitt, the head coach Pat Narduzzi, going up there and crying in the media, oh, these guys are wanting Kenny Pickett. Duh. Yes, Notre Dame called Kenny Pickett and said, hey, Kenny
Dude,
Pickett, you want to play at Notre Dame?
that charging to the game stuff sounds good, but it's dumb. You know what I mean? People get caught by strays because you want to just charge it to the game.
Okay, but that's the game. You didn't have to play. Just like these kids that want to
So
go to the
people
transfer
that
portal
have
don't
absolutely
get picked up.
nothing, people that have absolutely nothing to do with the game get impacted
Wait,
because of the
wait,
foolishness within the game.
wait. Who is the ones that are getting impacted?
The fans of the group of five schools.
Okay, now the fans. We talk about that. These are fair weather
Like,
fans.
dude, look, if you didn't, this is my point. If you didn't want the kid out of high school, don't wait for us to get him into our program, develop him, and make him the player that he is. And then you can just come along and just pick him off our branches.
100%.
That's
Because
that's 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 a little shaky,
100%. You know
bro.
why? You know why it's okay? Because at the end of the day, the kid don't gotta go. If he's doing everything that you saying that he's getting from you guys, then he wouldn't have no
Bro,
reason to leave.
bro,
It's true because guess what? The coaches can have a
bro.
really good season that year and be like, "Oh man, we've developed this kid for 3 years, but shoot, I'm about to go get $100 million over here at this other school."
Out of 10 kids, if you walk back on your block at the crib and the ice cream truck comes around, and you walk up to the ice cream truck and you say, "Yo, who wants some ice cream?" How many kids do you think are gonna run to that truck? It say league.
It'll be whoever hear it. I'm sure. If you giving it
How
for
about
free,
what group of 5 kid isn't going to hear Alabama coming around the corner and say, "Oh no, I don't want anything from
a
you."
ton. Drew Pine. Drew Pine had Alabama was like, no, I'm good. I'll go to Notre Dame and stink it up.
We talk about you said from a recruiting standpoint. This is
He was
tampering.
recruited by Alabama.
We're talking about tampering, bro. People tampering with your players during spring practice.
Yeah.
It's all even thieves have a sense of honor, bro.
There's no honor amongst thieves. And the thing is
What
that
do you mean?
the thing is though, if it was a system in place where they felt like it was tampering, there would be rules against it. But it's recruiting. You can't say if you're trying to make your team better and you know that there's no liaison between these players having agents like a professional league, because what do they do in the NFL and in these professional leagues? Agents are calling other teams, not the player, the agent. The middleman is calling other teams while the guy's on the team.
That's different.
It's not
different.
It's
If a kid decides to have someone outside of him looking for other opportunities, that's totally different.
But that's not
a
system in place in college football where they can go get an agent to search for other teams. You
know, they can't. Wait a minute. The system is open now.
They got parents. They got parents talking to. They got dads talking to other schools.
Tyler Buckner's parents were very much involved.
100%. But I'm saying,
took place.
But his parents being involved is only because there's no system in place to where Tyler can be like, let me hit the portal where they got these agents that can search for me.
Kids can hire agents as soon as they become a freshman now in college football. The system is already there.
For NIL.
And they can do more than that. What are we talking about?
These NIL programs that these guys are signed to aren't calling other schools for availability. No, they don't. They're not.
What you just said it. What rules apply that tells them they can't?
Well, they're agents that have to be certified to do specifically NIL marketing and branding and shit.
Okay, but once again, what rules apply that say they can't?
They don't. That's not what they're calling. They're not calling the kid to be like, hey, I can find you another school.
But my point is, what rules apply that tells them they can't? You just said there are no rules.
There's rules when it comes to representation.
Okay, I choose who represents me in whatever area. You can't tell me that this dude that's got me my NIL, he can't go get me an NIL at another school, or he can't inquire about NIL at another school. Come on, man.
I'm sure that's possible, but that's not. They're going for making money. They're not going for, oh, let me be this kid's best chance of success, because most of the time these guys are signing kids that are about to cross over into X and Y and Z. Because if we think about it, it ain't that many NIL guys. I mean, ain't that many guys in college football with NIL agents. Obviously, Tyler, like for instance, Notre Dame, Tyler Buckner had one. The Amendola brothers had one. And Michael Mayer had one. There's 80-something kids on the team that don't got NIL agents, because it's about making NIL deals. If it was about, oh, we just trying to keep a guy in the background and look out for better opportunities, then it would be more guys on the team with agents. But guys on the teams with agents in college football currently are focused on getting money from a deal, from a sponsorship. They're not now. I'm sure that they wouldn't have a reason to. If you are looking to transfer, you probably don't have an NIL agent because you're not making no money to begin with on a level to where you're productive enough to even have an agent. Most of these guys in the transfer portal are guys with no opportunities or guys that aren't happy with the situation. The guys that are taking advantage of it, like a Sam Hartman, he could have went to the league, so he probably got his agent telling him, why are you going back to school? let's go make this NFL money. So I do think that if there is going to be a tampering situation that you're trying to outlaw in college football, then it needs to be a system where guys can go get a quote unquote agent that can go make calls for him. Because other than that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because most of these kids, like we see the transfer portal now, who don't have homes, there's kids going into the transfer portal every day. All these schools have to have some type of system of management of recording it. Like when you go get a transfer right now, you go to the compliance office, they be like, oh, you want your release? They throw your name in a bucket and you leave school the next day. That's terrifying for a kid that has no idea and nobody got no feelers for him, or nobody, he just don't like his situation. So I don't think there's any rules that are a problem with tampering, because when you got kids like that, which is a majority of the portal, because let's think, what, 5% are actual, like I was in that 5% of guys that had an actual plan before they transferred. Now with the rule being available,
let's
95% of these kids have
let's
no
keep it
plan.
honest.
No plan, no lead.
Were you contacted during the season?
No. I was contacting. Well, this is also before it was an open thing.
Open market, yeah.
Now I had I met with Gus Malzahn in the DoubleTree Hotel across the street from the South Bend Airport. At that time, that's where it was. He flew in. I went over to we met. He told me, this is what we got. This is why I want you to come, or I'm going to get Jarrett Stidham. And I said, shit, I'm going to Florida. And he got Jarrett Stidham. That was transfer portal before it was open. Now, you want to hit the transfer portal, it's like, well, shit, I got to call Kenny Minchie style. I got to call up to some schools, see who need a quarterback. So 90% of the transfer portal right now are guys that have no leads. They just don't like where they at. So when it comes to what the schools are doing, vice versa, you need departments that are looking and scouring, because not everybody's playing. Not everybody's happy in their situation. And this is an opportunity for at least teams to get the right guy. How you going to get the right guy if you're not watching film? You're not going through the due diligence, because getting film is nothing. So if it was a serious tampering thing, it would be a bigger lock on film, like Deion did. Deion, like, look, I know you want to leave. You didn't get my film. I ain't finna have you marketing yourself off of my team. That's a way to protect themselves if you're a school. So if that's the case, if I'm the assistant coach for Bama, I'm calling CJ, be like, hey, man, you better keep a lock on your film, because we done got it, and we looking at your players now, and we searching names and all type of stuff. So if I'm you, I'm keeping a lock on my film. And if they want to leave, fine. Then we will have to do a harder job of trying to recruit guys at your school. So if anything, make the game harder. You making it easy to where it's like, yeah, you basically giving them the roster list, giving them the highlights of all their players, and they just picking and choosing.
So you still didn't answer the question, bro. What type of friend are you going to be to CJ? Wait, no. What type of friend are you going to be to CJ?
I just told you, I'm calling him and say, hey, you need to do a better job locking your film up, because we're recruiting you guys over here. If I'm CJ, I'm like, go ahead. These guys that you probably
you can get film. They don't have to call Memphis to get film. They can
I'm saying Memphis needs to do a better job of locking their film up.
You can't lock film up. You send film to your opponents.
But that's what I'm saying. If tampering is a problem, then the film is the issue, not the player in the research. But you only do what's available.
Bro,
it's like the tax code. It's like
film is a wild, wild west.
The tax.
All I have to do is contact the dude that's on the staff of the team you sent it to that you played.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the dude that we have to live. If tampering is an issue, if I'm Pat Narduzzi and I'm worried about all these people trying to take my players, I'm looking in-house first. Like the Draymond Green situation. Now, TMZ ain't getting that film of Draymond Green knocking out Jordan Poole if it wasn't from somebody on the inside.
Right.
Okay. That speaks to the Warriors let that happen.
Right.
9 times out of 10, if that was an NBA story, like Michael Jordan's punching Steve Kerr, that's not getting out till 50 years later.
No, that actually got out
I'm sorry.
Weeks later in Chicago. The
The video of it
yeah,
ain't coming out till years later.
Yeah, I feel you.
Okay, so that's the same thing. If you wanted a player so bad, you're not allowing that exposure to get out. Just like quarterbacking. If I had my choice, I would have never let Deshaun and Brandon get reps at practice. Never. Because the moment you open the door, oh, that was a good throw. Oh, that was a good play. Oh, if something happened, we'd be all right. You know, that's what Peyton Manning did to Jack Trudeau, his backup. That's why you never don't remember too many Peyton Manning backups. He ain't let none of them ever get reps. So if you don't want nobody to poach your players, don't open the door and allow it.
What Peyton Manning replaced? Who did he replace at Tennessee? His freshman year, was it Helton?
Don't nobody know. Think about how Matt Castle got so lucky that Tom Brady went down, that it jump-started his 14-year career in the NFL. But if it wasn't for Tom Brady getting hurt first game of the season, it would be no Matt Castle. It wouldn't be no Matt Castle. Matt Castle would have been 3 years done and went to insurance.
That's crazy. It was Helton. Todd Helton, the Major League Baseball player, was a quarterback. I remembered that. That's crazy.
He got hurt. You had to look it up to look up Peyton Manning's backup. You had to look it up.
I knew it because I remember watching the game.
But it's faint. It's faint memory. Like, didn't I? It's like what they call that thing? Where they could have swore that Sinbad movie came out and it never came out. The Mandela effect. It's like I could have swore I remember Peyton Manning's backup, or did he even have one, or was that just an alternate reality?
Yeah. Left more than
That's why you can't let the door open.
More than 1,100 scholarship players from Group of 5 schools have entered the portal since August.
Now let's just make objective sense about it, though. Let's make objective sense. All them damn.
Wait, think about this. Almost 600 of them have made commitments. So far, 199 are transferring to Power 5 schools. 64 of those 199 earned all conference honors. So, out of 1,100 that entered the portal,
64.
Half of those, pretty much 55% of those, made commitments, and only 10% of those went to the next level and actually made an impact to become all conference. So, you talk about still for these teams, you're looking for a needle in a haystack, looking at Group of 5 players.
I need a recruiting department for it. I need people looking at practice film of other teams' second week in spring.
I need a recruiting department that's good at it. Notre Dame.
Why I should be the GM.
And I know the transfer portal is a little bit different for Notre Dame academically than it is for everybody else.
That's why we need a bigger department to do extra due diligence.
Man.
Hey, we need a department that one side of the office works on the academic if they can get in, and the other side is identifying talent. See, I would already be the GM running the office right now. I'm like, look, we're just going to have to build a system to get over these obstacles. Let's find a bunch of really dedicated number crunchers. Probably visit, the Big Five in Chicago. Give me a bunch of smart dudes. Bring them up to school. Calculate the formula on what type of player in the grades that we need at the minimum. Calculate that up. Give me an equation. Smart Deloitte people. Then I'll take that formula and apply it to recruiting. So we can take the minimum and the maximum. Then I have the other side of the office work on talent. So give me the most talented, acceptable players, and we put the two together, and I get a master list. And then I do the final recruitment of the compiled players that are talented enough to get in, but then they got to get that final wash review by the young superstar GM over here. And I'm like, Marcus Freeman, give me 6 months. I have your roster tip top to bottom, looking right. And like Man, I haven't heard of this guy. Oh, I haven't seen this guy, but this guy got some freaky talent. You have a whole squad full of Brandon Hillmans. But it's got to be that, because at the end of the day, you still going to have Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson teaming up against you to take your recruits. You got that operating against you. You got the NIL operating against you. You need a big department that is specialized in recruiting. If we're not going to join a conference, if we're going to do everything backwards and different and good steward-like, then why not buff up the infrastructure?
Left, it's all about being human. Going back to counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1 in the backyard as a kid, dreaming of winning a championship. My proposal to everyone is to understand what it used to be is no more.
But that went against the players, though.
But the journey used to be to encourage young men. If you can't get into Florida State, if you can't get into Notre Dame, if you can't get into Alabama, you can still make it to the NFL. They'll find you. That still reigns true. But now kids, when they go to these group of fives, now they go into the group of five saying, I'm trying to get to a power five from here.
Okay, now.
So now things have changed, because as a group of five, when you got a player, it used to be, man, we're going to develop this dude and try to get him to the league. Because you knew you had him. You knew you had him. Now, group of five, that's why group of five teams ended up getting better when scholarship restrictions came along, because they started to get more players and better players on their roster. Now, they've established these programs where they've developed these 2 stars and these 3 stars. And now, just when they think they have a good team coming out of spring, because players are looking at it differently now, players are saying, yo, coach, I'm thinking about going into the portal. Wait a minute. We love you. We recruited you. We brought you here. We poured into you. We've helped you develop when nobody else really wanted you. And now you want to go to the schools that told you weren't good enough? After we put in the work, I'm just looking at it from the other side, because I know I wouldn't feel too happy about it, right? Because that school told you. No. Let me finish. That is being genuine. That's a genuine feeling. That's a genuine feeling. You know what a genuine feeling is as a father, dude? That I'm only going to be number one in my daughter's life for a short term of her life.
That's fair.
I got maybe 25 to 30 years, bro. That's not a good feeling. You know what I'm saying? Her mother is always going to be the number one woman. Always. I am on borrowed time, bro. Yeah. That's not a good feeling. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to act a fool once she gets engaged.
Some do.
Some do, right? But I'm not going to act a fool. But that's going to be tough. All I'm saying is this is a tough situation where my heart goes out to group of five coaches, because things have evolved and there's really no protection for them.
No. See. It goes back to accountability. It makes coaches have to really coach again, because at the end of the day, yeah, you're there for selfish reasons and to win games. But at the same time, the accessibility you have to be so fluid and moving between different schools and different opportunities, and the fact that you have to keep your recruiting up, because the truth is you have to out recruit your last class. As a premise, your job is to recruit better than the last class. So disingenuously,
you're right.
So disingenuously, you're upset at the player that wants to leave.
You can't say
when you're bringing in somebody better.
You can't say it's disingenuous for the group of five dudes that have to work harder with less resources and
No,
less money
it's not
to
less restrictive.
bring
We had a
kids in.
transfer portal. You have to be a great coach. Like, for instance, if you are Lincoln Riley,
So wait a minute. So
you're a
basically, now the
great
group
coach.
of five has to do unto the levels that are below them what is being done to them by the Power Five. So basically, they have to be jerks. They have to turn into
No,
jerks. That's basically what you're saying.
if you're a San Diego State, right? And the kids you got, obviously, knowing what we know about the NFL, they're gonna find you wherever.
Right.
That's the great equalizer. Because if you're a great coach, you're going to retain those kids because what you're teaching them to get to the next level, to be seen by guys who are going to find you. NFL spends 24 hours,
Now
365.
I'll say this. I will say this. Great example. Alabama absolutely tampered with Jahmyr Gibbs while he was at Georgia Tech.
And that's fair,
Right?
because you know
Now,
why
look,
Georgia Tech wasn't doing it for service.
No. Jahmyr Gibbs was a first-round pick because he was at Bama rather than Georgia Tech. That's a great business move by Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yes.
Great business
On
move.
an individual level, absolutely.
I have no problem with that.
But Jahmyr Gibbs had to get better too.
But that's Power 5 to Power 5.
Okay.
That's Power 5 to Power 5.
Okay.
My point is, this is my point. At some point, if Alabama wants to steal somebody off Notre Dame's roster,
they did.
If they want to steal somebody off of Kansas State's roster, that's Power 5 to Power 5. When you start going to the point where you the success rate from the numbers we just read, the success rate is like almost less than 10%.
And that's on the kids. Like,
So
for instance, Rhode Island tackle. If I'm the Rhode Island tackles coach and he's got every Power 5 offer, I'm like, man, you know what? I did a great job, because your ass definitely wasn't that before you got here. So if you want to go to Alabama, fine, because you want to go to the league. But you can also go to the league staying here. It's just it's Sam Hartman choice. Sam Hartman could have went to the league. He saw the value of being at a place where he got a chance to be at. Not everybody gets a Power 5 chance. Some people selfishly want to play in Power 5 and stay in Power 5 and make it from Power 5. Yeah. But the road that's hard to make it is where you make it from wherever you at. That's a harder process to think about for some guys who may be feeling like they're more talented than them circumstances. But what is it about for you? Is it about making it to the league, or is it about being seen and being at the highest of the high right now?
And see, that's where Notre Dame stands in the midst of this, because they don't do a good job in the transfer portal, in my opinion. Brandon Joseph was
but that's anybody
look,
would have been, for Brandon Joseph specifically. I think he had a lot of options out of Northwestern, but rightfully so. You can only give what you put on tape. It didn't work out when he tried to take that next level of competition. But that's why Notre Dame, it's like, man, if we're going to crash out with the number one guy. Because it's hard to live with crashing out with a good dude that was supposed to elevate us and didn't.
Well, they had a kid that was an Indiana kid that grew up as a Notre Dame fan that chose Florida State. That was coming from the MAC. He was a defensive tackle, Braden Fisk. Grew up a Notre Dame fan, 300 pounds. He said, I'm going to Florida State. Once again, look, that can't happen.
That can't happen, no.
That right there can't happen. What made him say, I think I want to go to Florida State?
Well, see, that's a dealer's choice right there, man.
So you want to talk about where Notre Dame stands in the midst of this wild, wild west from a recruiting standpoint, because they refuse to compete It hurts them recruiting. You lose Keon Keedy. Why? Because Alabama said, yo, we get defensive linemen to the NFL. Notre Dame had no counter for that other than we develop guys. But no, we don't have anybody that's going first round, second round like that. So this article really brought focus to where Notre Dame stands and how they might need to improve in this open market in this wild, wild west. While you're trying to be a good steward in an open market, like how do you expect to win like that?
Yeah.
How?
You can't win an open market doing the way we doing it.
How?
You have divine inspiration.
It's it's incredible, man. I mean, the financial promises that are being made. You tell a group of 5 kid that you're going to be a starter at a Power 5 school and get NIL. What? What, dude? What is the group of 5 head coach supposed to say?
You got
What?
money, man. The reason why but that's the reason why there's such thing as a Power 5 and everybody else because of the money.
Dude,
Travis Hunter was like, you know what? Jackson State and the whole story is cool. It's cool. I did it. I tried. But there's some dollars and some bags that I can get right now and
yeah,
still be in the same spot with my coach at a Power 5. Nobody's saying that that's wrong for Colorado. Everybody's like, yeah, Colorado, you did a great job pulling up these kids that wasn't Power 5 in the Power 5. So it works a positive and negative depending on, the circumstances. But in my opinion, I think it's all good because the players were so much pigeonholed on a lot of different fronts
yeah,
where coaches weren't held accountable on these kids' lives that they're impacting in that short amount of time. The coaches just were able to do whatever they want, didn't really have to care, didn't have to coach, didn't have to do nothing.
yeah,
They just had to recruit
yeah,
and win games. Now they like, oh shit, I got to coach and retain and care and really invest and be on my shit and actually know what I'm talking about if I want to keep them. If I have to act like in all the stuff I'm saying, I'm sitting next to mama, that I can really put them in the league. I have to stand on that. Because if I don't, they can leave me. And that's not going to look good on my recruitment record. If I'm Chancey Stuckey, I got Tobias leaving, Rico leaving, Jaden Greyhouse leaving, all these dudes leaving, Carnell Tate committing and then leaving. What's that look like on me as a recruiter? I'm not going to be coaching for much longer. And that's good. Your ass got to be elite. Or you can go coach at William and Mary.
Look, Notre Dame situation is a situation that all of us have been part of, right? I liken it unto playing your favorite game. I'll just say NCAA football, and you create a player. Now, you can be lame and give the player all 99s if that's what you want to do.
That's what you want to do.
You create a quarterback, you want to give him all 99s and make him the greatest thing ever. That's kind of lame. Or you could be realistic, right?
Get the
And
match.
Notre Dame has an opportunity to create his own player in this open market. They can be realistic. They can be realistic about their academic standards. They can be realistic about maybe not wanting to spend as frivolously as some of the other schools. That's fine. They can be good stewards and want to save at a higher rate than other programs. That's fine as well. But at some areas, you're going to have to pump yourself up to be close to that 99. If not 99, at least 95. Right?
Fake it till you make it.
Because you
It's like
can't really.
Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's B game was
Yeah.
better than everybody's A game.
Because people don't really understand. Like, if you're creating a player, say you're creating a running back, the sweet spot for a running back, especially with acceleration and elusiveness, is right around 93. See, you don't want the running back with 99 speed and 99 acceleration. You can't control them.
That's why the best receivers run 4.6s. You got AB ran a 4.65 or something, but is one of the best route runners, right? Frank Gore ran a 4.6 in the combine, and he played 21 years in the league as a running back.
Man,
It was a great running back. Emmitt Smith wasn't that fast. Emmitt Smith ran what, a 4.5 high 4.5, but one of the most elusive backs in the NFL history. Just like Barry Sanders wasn't a 4.4 speed, was he?
absolutely.
Barry Sanders was that brother could.
So look, while everyone else is doing their own creative player for their program, you have the same opportunity.
You
Notre
almost
Dame
have
has
to
the
be a
same
creative
opportunity.
player to go to Notre Dame because you got to fit in the standards. You got to be a top player. You got to be good off the field somehow. However they draw it up for you to look like off the field. You got to be a creative player to go to Notre Dame. And sometimes being a creative player, you still may be told, hey, listen, look,
Man,
you're going to have to not commit. And you
yeah,
might want to go.
yeah,
So to be at a Notre Dame is a little more special, you know, to make. Because even guys that grew up, they fans their whole life, like Jack Cohn,
hmm
had to wait till his 5th year to get called by Notre Dame.
yeah,
He wasn't called before that.
yeah,
He had to earn his way to get called, even in school,
yeah.
and kept them grades up, and had to get it,
Right.
So
You know somebody's lame when they're creating a player, creating a quarterback, and giving the quarterback 99 and blocking. Like, what are you doing?
yeah, you're not enjoying the process.
Like, dude, man, be realistic. And I understand that Notre Dame has to be realistic about who they are in the college football landscape. But what I don't think they've done is be realistic about how they're being left behind in certain spaces and how they're putting their coaching staff and their players at a disadvantage as time moves on. There's a lot of money to be made, close to 350 million for Notre Dame collectively via the new TV deal and the apparel deal. But as you move forward and solidify the financial side of the football program, what about the other side? What about the side that gets the best players? What about the side that attracts the best coaches? Because ultimately, that's how you win football games. We can talk about all this other stuff, but when they kick the ball off on Saturdays in the fall, I don't care what your team GPA is. I really don't. Love You Lefty podcast. Before we go, we said Teddy Rizak out of Westlake in Omaha, Nebraska, committed to Notre Dame about an hour ago. And left, here's the young man that, he played back end, played some back end, but he's a linebacker pretty much, 3-star. What do you think about his film?
3-star, you said?
3-star, Teddy Rizak, Omaha, Nebraska, Westlake High School.
I mean,
Your silence is deafening.
I'm sure this is what JD Bertram looked like in high school, Uh, sure tackler. Um, just a good football player. I think this is a this is a guy that you need on the roster that may be nameless, but he's an impact because he's a good football player. Is anything particularly popping for me? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's unblocked, for instance. Like that's an unblocked play. He shows he got a little bit of speed. Shed blocks, he wraps up when he tackles. I think that's good to see. But this is a good football player. He's got good size. You can play him in different spots. He fits the mold of recruiting for Marcus Freeman, where he's playing in, he's playing some receivers, playing some running back, playing some nickel, playing some linebacker. So when it comes to being a five-way player that Notre Dame likes to recruit, he fits that. On top of with the size and got some highlights and flashes. This is a guy that's going to be on the roster and he'll show up in special teams. He might make some plays here and there. But is he a superstar player? I don't know. He looked no different than Aeneas Williams. I think Aeneas Williams looks better, but he fits exactly what Marcus Freeman is looking for. You got to play about 3 or 4 positions. You got to be pretty big, size and speed wise, and then show some flash. You a Notre Dame guy. So, do I think he's going to be one of the screen poppers that we always suggest we need? No. Do I think he's better than Ben Minich, though? Yeah. But he would be a nice compliment to a Ben Morrison. He would be a nice compliment to that front 7. But these are this is not your engine, but this is that shiny car part you add to make it look better, to raise the value of the car. This is like putting that fuzzy steering wheel cover. Just put because
with the dice hanging down from your mirror.
Yeah,
bro.
This is one of those type of players. This is one of those type of attachments. We're just getting some dice for the car.
Oh man.
Make it comfortable. It's like adding a little 15-inch in the back of the headrest. Because we're gonna be on this road for a while, so you need something to watch. It's a nice little attachment. Make the car more comfortable.
Yo, once again, Teddy Rizak commits to Notre Dame, 3-star 2024 class. He plays safety, played linebacker, played wide receiver. He's an athlete.
Yeah, just put good little player.
He's a Brandon Hillman type, but I would rather have Brandon Hillman.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. Well, Left, I hope your boys get it done tonight.
We will. We just wanted to do it at home so LeBron go home and celebrate with Savannah after that magazine run.
That's fine, because you do know what's going to happen Monday if you show up here.
See?
And somebody, wait a minute, and somebody has got 3-1 the other way. If you do understand what's going to happen Monday, if we show up here Monday and that game 7 does not go the way of the Lakers on Sunday, you understand how the show is going to start off, right? I just want you to know.
All I know is that at the end of the day, LeBron James, his legacy is solidified.
That's fine and dandy.
And
I just want you to know. I just want you to know. If Steph Curry comes back from a 3-1 deficit in this series to win this series, just understand how we're starting the show off on Monday. Just understand it.
Don't let that last game fool you. LeBron wouldn't
Dude, first of all, I didn't say nothing about the last game. I didn't say anything about being fooled. What I do know is that Chicago holds everything in his hands. Because of Anthony Davis plays like I personally think this is Anthony Davis's moment. This is his moment to take a step up and be that dude. I think he gets you about 25, 13 boards tonight, and the Lakers win the game. That's what I would bet. I'm just forewarning you that it's going to be dangerous for you if Steph Curry comes back and wins this series. That's all I'm saying.
I'm feeling like LeBron. I'm not worried.
I understand that. But I know.
At the end of the day, nobody can guard AD. Nobody can guard.
Facts.
Nobody can guard LeBron. And the Warriors got to shoot and be successful way more than we do having to shoot. Because we have a better,
LeBron is struggling guarding Wiggins just a little bit last 2 games. Just a little bit.
just a little bit, but LeBron 38.
Wiggins he's a real active dude. Real active dude.
Yeah, it's just like a dude that want to jump for every damn rebound. It's like, all right, bro, you just you boxing out every time, you running the court all the time. It's like, all right,
that's the dude that's real extra in the pickup game, like, bro.
Like, okay, man, like play, get with the speed. You trying to up the speed of the game. Like, get with the speed of the game. There's a pace of this thing. You over here extra. Just these dudes these days, man, just want to the type, he just trying to out hustle you on points. He just running down, cherry picking, he's running the half court offense. You get gimmick baskets, Andrew Wiggins. Gimmick baskets.
Oh man.
That's like Giannis, a bagless player. He has no bag in his duffel. He just dribbles and dunks, like James Harden said. That's why Giannis talking about he feels disrespected. He's coming. He's still not going to be able to shoot next year. I don't know what is he coming with. All he does is run down, bully dudes, and dunk.
Hey, you do what you do, so that makes you successful. I have no problem with the way Giannis plays basketball.
He has no bag.
Don't need one, obviously, to win a championship.
Yeah, he do.
Not to win a championship because he did it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty historic? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, pettiest story of the day, brought to you by Onora Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com, and Premium American Whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. Hey, man, some of you NFL teams make way too much money to put out the subpar schedule releases that you put out. Now, kudos to the Tennessee Titans. They were creative. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys. Shout out to what the Jets have done. Sauce Gardner on the front of Sports Illustrated with the barbecue sauce on his fingers. A lot of teams are doing it right. But you NFL teams that have millions and billions in the coffers, and you can't even invest in how to release your schedule correctly, Minnesota Vikings. Come on, man. What are we doing? Now, Left retweeted the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to say anything because I knew we would come correct. I knew we would.
I came correct. It was good.
I knew we would. The whole schedule was cooked to order.
Yeah. It definitely
whole schedule cooked to order.
You see, as I say, you see how they play on it right there? They cooked it right now.
Cooked it right.
They had the right games.
Had all the chefs.
That's
all I'm saying.
They definitely cooked it right now. Let's not mess this one up, Justin Fields. Just a little bit more accurate.
But then I want to put NFL fans on the petty train. Why is NFL schedule release so hype?
Yeah, why is it a hype thing? It's not like Selection Sunday. This is not Selection Sunday.
Right. I'm like, why is this being hyped up this much, man? Okay, that's the schedule.
Because the schedule's coming, the schedule don't play for another 4 months. What are we? So,
I mean, what? That's the schedule. The Packers don't have they have a quarterback, but they don't have Aaron Rodgers. The Lions are going to lion. That's what they do. The Vikings had a good year last year, so they're going to stink this year. I mean, it's history. And the Bears are on their way. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, we'll see.
The Bears are going to win 7 games next year.
Yes. They might win 8.
7 games. And the Bears are going to end up with 2 top 10 picks next year, which is going to be beautiful because the Panthers are going to stink. My prayer is that Bryce Young stays healthy regardless of them stinking, though.
They're going to be all right. They got some guys.
Still win 4 or 5 games. They'll keep us in.
Bryce is on par with Peyton Manning in the mental.
See, Bryce Young's job is to keep the Bears in Marvin Harrison Jr. range. That's it. Just keep the Bears in Marvin Harrison Jr. range. That's all. That's your job. All season. That's your job all season. Keep the Bears in Marvin Harrison Jr. range. That's it. That's all we ask of you. We don't need the number 1 pick. We don't need number 1. We don't need number 2. But you got to at least keep us around 3, 4. No, we can't go top 5 because the quarterbacks are going 1, 2.
Yes. Quarterback going 1, 2. Somebody's going to be terrible.
And maybe Michael Penix sneaks up there. Maybe.
He got to have a Heisman season for that. Man, get that brother that shot.
I mean, the dude did lead the nation in yardage and touchdowns. So,
and it didn't get him no credit because he way in the boondocks of Washington.
All I'm saying is, just keep us in range, Bryce Young. That's all.
Right.
Just keep us in range, bro. We'll do the rest. Just keep us in range. Your Jaguars, I'm interested in seeing what they do to begin the season. I want to see if they can be consistent.
We're a postseason team. Come on.
Hey.
We're winning the division easily. Come on. CJ Stroud, whoever's in Anthony Richardson. Come on. And then you got.
Oh, so now you disrespected. Wait, now you disrespected Anthony Richardson now?
We have Trevor Lawrence.
But why do you have to disrespect him to say Trevor Lawrence is that dude?
Trevor Lawrence is beating all of the competition in his division. It's the weakest one. We got CJ Stroud the first year, Anthony Richardson the first year, and then Tannehill maybe, Malik Willis maybe, Will Levis maybe. Come on, I want that.
Oh, that Tennessee quarterback room is boo-boo.
Like, come on. We're straight over there. And they might not even keep 3 quarterbacks in Tennessee. They should keep all 3 because all 3 of them ain't doing better than Trevor. So we're winning that division easy. Jaguars up. We're looking for first round bye. That's what we're looking for.
Ooh. That Tennessee Titans quarterback room is awful. The names you just said. Oh, my goodness.
So we're good over here in Jacksonville.
Ooh. Ooh. Tannehill, Levis, and Malik. Ooh. Man, Mike Vrabel might want to go ahead and just resign, bro. Just resign.
Don't go through that tough season like that. Don't do that.
You know who else might need to ask for a trade? Derrick Henry.
Well, he got to stay healthy. He ain't been healthy all season.
Hey, Derrick Henry is like, look, man, y'all not about to put me back here with these quarterbacks. There's already 8 in the box.
Boxes. Yeah, 8, 9 man boxes. No.
They
added a guy to the box when we drafted Will Levis. They added one. They said, you know what? Just stiffen that run defense up. They just added Will Levis.
Yo, we talked about where Notre Dame stands. Great show. Have a great weekend, but most of all, make sure that you spit it different.